Hi!
Thank you to all who came here today to help New Orleans stand with the rest of the world in saying, stop spraying us and our skies. The global march against chemtrails and geoengineering is going on worldwide in over 31 countries. Yeah!
Woo!
And in 67 cities in the U.S. alone.
Awesome!
Congratulations! You are part of the largest demonstration and stand against the madness of stratospheric aerosol geoengineering that has been plaguing our skies for years and which has been slowly but undeniably destroying the vibrancy of our planet and ourselves.
Woo!
Chemtrails. Those long, white, persistent lines that come out of planes that they try to say are contrails but are not. Those toxic trails that are causing air and rain samples the world over to come up with high levels of aluminum, barium, strontium, and other cocktails, including strange fallout containing weird and unnatural synthetic fibers that cause morgellons, the mad scientist's disease, and a whole host of other disorders such as strokes, neurological problems, asthma, and more. Those trails that cause droughts, making forest fires more likely, such as the massive blaze out in California that is raging as we speak. Chemtrails, the big silent killer of life that the media refuses to talk about. That is what we the world over and here in NOLA today are here to talk about, expose, and end. Screw the MSM!
Woo!
Screw the MSM, yes. Though this is only the beginning of our efforts to fight this insanity, the fight has been going on for years. Those of us who have been noticing this offense to nature and humanity for far too long know of the frustration that comes with trying to get others to open their eyes to what has been right in front of them the whole time. The reasons for their disbelief are many. 1, people can't believe their government would do that to them. 2, people don't believe that their government could do that to them. And 3, people can't understand why the government would do that to their own selves and families, since spraying our skies with heavy metals and poisons would affect the world too. While I agree that this horror is unfathomable and the answers multiple and complicated, it is possible to boil the answers down to 3 words: lies, greed, and power. Why do they do this? Because they can. Man has been fascinated with weather since the beginning of time. That it often rained after bloodshed on battlefields has long been noted, and many speculations followed. The history of rainmakers is relatively well noted, and you can check out the book Rainmakers in the local library, which goes into the history of rainmaking over the last couple hundred years. Of course, it wasn't until the last century that rainmakers have had any sort of notable success with their craft, and boy have they. The first such success, believe it or not, was 1915, when San Diego offered $2,000 to anyone who could build a Merino reservoir.
Hang out if you're here.
Geoengineering,
they mess with the weather.
A man by the names of Charles Hatfield stepped up to the challenge and not only succeeded in filling the reservoir, but overtopped several of them, causing loss of life, cattle, and property, and nearly getting himself lynched. Though seriously upset, the city of San Diego was willing to pay, but Charlie declined payment per the advice of his lawyers to limit his liability in the damages the rains were responsible for. And of course, it didn't stop there. The first patent for a cloud-making machine was number 1338343, issued on April 27th. For a process and apparatus for the production of intense artificial clouds, fogs, and mists. The next one to follow were on March 1st, 1927. Process of producing smoke clouds for moving aircraft. And the patents go on and on and on and on from there. The issue of governance came up early on as well. In 1967 or so, Texas issued the Texas Weather Modification Act to deal with making sure ranchers didn't get the rain stolen from their land by nearby projects after lawsuits brought up concerns. Meanwhile, in Vietnam, Ben Livingston has success during Project Storm Fury, extending the monsoon season by several months with a few simple cloud seeding projects, thus proving that man can and has weaponized weather. Of course, Congress didn't get to find out about this till 7 years later, leading the UN in 1967 to form the Weather Weapons Treaty, making it illegal to use weather as a weapon. This, of course, didn't stop man's thirst for power and desire for harnessing the weather for reasons both benign and dubious. It just taught the powers to be that if they were to continue doing their experiments and having a powerful advantage of their enemies, or those who would object to a darker agenda, that they would have to skirt the issue of getting permission altogether. Believe me, the work did continue. Though weather modification has been going on for a long time, it wasn't until 1996 that people the world over Some countries were spared back then, though few are anymore. 1996 was also the year that the Air Force research document owning the weather by 2025 was issued. In it, a timeline was set out that we can see being played out today, and most chemtrail activists would agree that they are far beyond it today. You see, cloud seeding is just one part of weather modification. There is an electromagnetic component as well. Who here has heard of Tesla?
Me.
Hey, my hero!
Yes. I won't go into much here, but needless to say, he was a greater genius than any other since or before him, having discovered free energy without wires. If only J.P. Morgan Chase hadn't killed this possibility when he discovered you couldn't put a meter on it, thus profit off of its use. This technology, however, did not die with the suppression of its public use, but has been applied to many other applications, many of which we may never know about. We do know that part of the weather modification magic that goes on these days applies this electromagnetic knowledge to the science of rainmaking. Facilities like HARP up in Alaska is notoriously known for working in conjunction with such projects. Though it denies being able to alter the weather, HARP does not hide the fact that it is an ionospheric heater. That means it takes our precious ionosphere, heats it up, thus expanding it, creating great vacuums in the sky that have the effect of redirecting our air currents and jet streams. HARP and other technologies similar to it also have the ability to produce other previously natural phenomena. But please don't believe me. Just listen to what the U.S. Secretary of Defense William S. Cohen said on April 28, 1997 in a testimony before a congressional committee. Others are engaging even in an eco-type of terrorism whereby they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. So there are plenty of ingenious minds out there that are working at finding ways in which they can wreak terror upon other nations. It's real, and that's the reason why we have to intensify our efforts, and that is why this is so important. And intensify, they did. Next, they needed to make it legal, without admitting guilt. Enter Public Law 105-85 in November of the same year, 1997. Public Law 105-85, use of human subjects for testing of chemical or biological agents, seems well-intentioned on the outside. It states that the Department of Defense is not allowed to experiment chemically or biologically on humans for any reason. But then, it lists the exceptions. I'll give you just the first of the three listed exceptions. Exception to being sprayed chemically or biologically. Any peaceful purpose that is related to a medical, therapeutic, pharmaceutical, agricultural, industrial, and research activity. Does that cover everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can spray us for any reason they damn well please. Right. I'm not kidding it. Look it up for yourselves. In fact, look up any and all of what I just said. It's a matter of history and public record. With Public Law 105-85, the very fact we have allowed it to stand implies our consent to being sprayed for any so-called peaceful purposes. Well, I have news for you. I'm here today to say I do not consent to being sprayed for any purpose, peaceful or otherwise.
Me neither.
I do not consent to having weather decided for me without my knowledge or consent. I do not consent to being experimented on, or to having my environment degraded for the greed and profit of those who are in charge, or to the weaponization of any such technologies being used against others to defend me. I do not consent to having the earth used as a weapon against me. And that's just what it is, and what is going on without our knowledge. All this is scary, and I can assure you I know this, but believe you me, burying your head in the sand will not protect your home when Frankenstorms like Sandy come and take it away. Heck, they didn't even lie to you about it. They called it what it is, Frankenstorm, a man-made monster. Or denial won't stop the tornadoes, more severe and worse than ever before, from wiping your town off the map. You cannot fight nature, but you can start seeing what is going on and hold your government accountable for it, for manipulating it. Laymen, weathermen have been able to predict some of these severe weather phenomena before they occur by studying radar and looking for signature returns that betray use of these immoral technologies, as they give off fingerprints of sorts that betray the use of them. Many are beginning to point the finger at the next rad radars, themselves as giving off pulses that storms follow and can